Well, Washington says Operation Epic Fury has ended, which means the big air and naval strikes are over for now. And the US is now focused on keeping the ceasefire alive with Iran. But behind that calm message, it seems the United States is opening another front against Tehran. Not with bombs and missiles, but by talking about putting guns into the hands of ordinary Iranians who, as per Trump, hate their rulers. Well, Trump has begun openly arguing that an unarmed population cannot stand up against a heavily armed regime, hinting that the next phase of pressure on Iran may run through its own streets, homes, and most importantly, underground network rather than through the skies over the Gulf. So today in this edition of From the News Desk, we will talk about what exactly is Trump's new plan and how it might affect the current ceasefire between US and Iran. Well, in recent days, Trump and his team have stressed that the main US offensive, branded by officials as Epic Fury Operation, is finished, and the Washington is now committed to a ceasefire that has largely stopped the firing in the Gulf region. Yet, at the same time, US forces are still pushing at Iran's grip over Strait of Hormuz, escorting ships and testing Tehran's red line in the narrow waterways that carries a big share of world's oil. Now, against this tense backdrop, Trump used a radio interview to signal a new kind of pressure, helping Iranians themselves to get weapons. In fact, he said an unarmed population has little chance against security forces with automatic rifles, pointing to the high death toll among anti-regime protesters, and insists that as soon as they have guns, they will fight as good as anybody there is. Trump also painted a picture of a weakened enemy, claiming that US strikes and sanctions have left Iran's military badly damaged and its economy struggling to stay afloat, and even boasting that the US has already won the war. He argues that Iran's navy has been obliterated and that Tehran is now fighting from a position of deep weakness, even as small clashes and maritime harassment continues around the Strait of Hormuz. Trump's talk of arming ordinary Iranians is not just a fresh idea. It is also a reminder of a secret plan that, by his own admission, already failed. In multiple interviews to US media outlets, he revealed that Washington had earlier tried to send a lot of guns to Iranian protesters through Kurdish intermediaries during the huge anti-regime demonstrations of late 2025 and early 2026. But according to Trump, those weapons never reached the protesters who were risking their lives in Iran's street. He suggested that Kurdish groups get the guns instead of passing them on, effectively killing the plan before it could change the balance between crowds armed with slogans and security forces armed with rifles. Although Kurdish organizations strongly deny Trump's assertions by saying they received no US arms at all. Well, this very episode has become a cautionary tale in Washington about how covert efforts to arm dissidents can backfire, raise expectations among protesters, and hand propaganda ammunition to regime that already accused the US of plotting regime change. Now, as Trump again raises the idea of an armed population inside Iran, critics warn that past failures show how messy and risky such operations can be, especially in a country already on edge from war and economic crisis. Even as he talks tough and claims victory, Trump is keeping the door open to deal with Tehran, setting a dual strategy of pressure plus possible negotiations. He insists the US is not seeking a wider war, but also warns that Iran better hope the ceasefire stays in place, hinting at severe consequences if US ships are attacked or if Hormuz is closed again. And at the heart of any future talk, Trump says, is this key demand: Iran must give up its highly enriched uranium with nuclear material to be repatriated to the United States as a key condition for real sanction relief. Now, asked whether recovering this material is a red line, he replied that Washington wanted back 100%, tying nuclear rollback directly to any peace package. Well, for now, the ceasefire that ended the most intense phase of fighting is fragile but intact. Although Iran complains that US efforts to force open the Strait of Hormuz and talks of arming its citizens are violations of the spirit of the truce, while Washington insists it is simply protecting shippings and supporting the Iranian people against a weakened regime. Now that leaves the region in a tense in-between zone. The big bombing campaign is over, but the confrontation is shifting into a new, murkier territory. Covert weapon pipelines, political pressure, and hard nuclear demands, with ordinary Iranians once again caught in the middle of this fire.